Hello bookworms, welcome to another video. Today is a review of Circe by Madeline Miller. Get that without the glare on it if I can. I like the art on the front, the gold embossed, and the Greek design. This book I borrowed from my library, the Stephenville Library in Kindale Library in Stephenville. So if you live in Newfoundland, you can order it to read, or if you don't live in Newfoundland, check out your public library. This one has a nice little map in the front, which I like. Maps are always nice. And they also have in the back a little thing with all of the characters. So this one's all the Titan divinities and a little description about them. The Olympian divinities and the mortals, and then also the monsters, which is very nice. So this book is one of the 12 books recommended by 12 friends, and my friend Cherie recommended it to me. It was also on my TBR list anyway because it is a highly recommended book. A lot of people really loved it, said it was a page turner. I'm not gonna I guess I can read the description. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. But Circe is a strange child, not obviously powerful like her father, nor viciously alluring like her mother. Turning to the world of mortals for companionship, she discovers that she does possess power, the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Threatened, Zeus banishes her to a deserted island where she hones her occult craft, tames wild beasts, and crosses paths with many of the most famous figures in all of mythology, including the Minotaur, Daedalus and his doomed son Icarus, the murderous Medea, and of course the wily Odysseus. But there is danger too for a woman who stands alone, and Circe unwittingly draws the wrath of both men and gods, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. To protect what she loves most, Circe must summon all of her strength and choose once and for all whether she belongs with the gods she is born from or the mortals she has come to love. So this book is basically kind of like a little bit of a retelling of the Odyssey and the Iliad that was written by Homer way back in the day. It's basically a retelling of the Odyssey and whatnot, like a lot of the old Greek mythology stories from the goddess Circe's point of view. Now she really is a real goddess, and there are myths about her, but they are minor ones. They're not as famous as like Odysseus and Hercules and all those ones. So they're all mentioned in the book, and how her involvement in some of those myths is all from Circe's point of view. It is in, I believe it is in, it's in first person, like I said, all from Circe's point of view. I found the chapters kind of long, which is frustrating when you want to take a break once in a while. So some of them are decent length and some of them are kind of long. I found it slow paced. It is basically a life story. Now, the description made it sound a lot more interesting and exciting. In my opinion, I didn't find it all that riveting. I found it very slow paced, and because I know all of the Greek mythology stories, it wasn't like new and exciting things to me. Like I knew what was going to happen. Circe's individual story, I didn't really know per se. Like I've never read the Odyssey or the Iliad. I kind of feel like they would, the way, because they were written so long ago, it would be like old school writing. It would be like even trying to read Shakespeare. Like, Shakespeare isn't exactly easy to understand for some people. I guess you could read an updated version of the Odyssey, but this is basically what that is. So a lot of, yeah, mythology from Circe's point of view, and those characters more, it makes them all seem more real, more human, more down to earth. It's a different point of view for those mythologies, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, there's lots of stories that have been retold by different authors that are actually quite interesting and different. And sometimes that's what it needs. Like, there's certain stories, like, you just don't like the person's writing style, and I feel that that's what Homer would be like for a lot of people because it was written so long ago. So this is kind of like a modern-ish version of that, to a point. I mean, some of the details are left out. Not all of the mythology stories are covered. I liked the growth of the characters, especially Circe. You can see how she grows and changes. It's a little bit slower with a human than with a god because obviously they live for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So, like, in the book, even though she's hundreds of years old, she's still very childlike and youthful, like someone who was in their teens would act. Very naive, very sheltered at the beginning. Oh, the map is the island that Zeus banishes her to, and it's not incredibly as deserted. Well, it is deserted. She's the only one there, but it's interesting. I did find it predictable, but only because I knew the mythology and the stories. If you've never read any Greek mythology, you would definitely find some of the things a lot more interesting than I did. Definitely no twists thrown in. Pretty predictable. The ending was... she sort of does a wrap-up, but it's also in Circe's imagination of how she'd like her life to end up. And then it sort of like leaves the rest to your imagination. I was a little disappointed. It wasn't, for this book, I guess it was all right. It could have been better. I prefer an actual, like, afterward, like 5 years in the future, and seeing that they got what they wanted instead of like, oh, this is how I'd like it to turn out, and just hope it does. Or they just leave it like completely up to the imagination. I don't like those kind of books. It's definitely not a romance. There is, like, Circe does have love interests throughout the book, but I wouldn't call it a romance in any sense of the word. It is definitely a lifestyle book. The only other book that I've read recently that's like that is A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is following a girl's life as she grows up in Brooklyn in, I want to say, the 20s or the 30s. That one I found a little bit more interesting, but again, it wasn't predictable to me because it was something different. Like this, the mythology I already know, so it was predictable to me. But yeah, it's a lifestyle book. I usually read more adventure and romance, more romance themed, but adventure and fantasy with magic and dragons, and that's my usual thing. Now, obviously, mythology is still fantasy because it's not real. But again, this was just like a retelling for me. I would give it a 3 out of 5 stars rating. It is a good book. The writing is excellent. The characters are very likable, but nothing really stood out to me. The plot wasn't as engaging. I did not find it to be a page turner at all. I did still like the book, but I will not be rereading it, and I will not be buying a copy for myself. If you like lifestyle books where it's someone's life that you're following, and if you like Greek mythology but you don't know a whole bunch about it, it would definitely be more interesting to you. So if you want to check it out, Circe by Madeline Miller. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your books, because that's probably what I'm going to do. I'm not sure what I'm going to read next. I'll figure it out. I am up for suggestions, though, if you want to leave a suggestion in the comments. I do have the 12 books by 12 friends that I'm going to be reading this year. Not necessarily one a month. I might group them up depending on how I get them from the library, or if I want to buy them. Some of them are on my TBR and I might buy, but we'll see. Anyhow, have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.